Hi there, Diecast fans. What we have here is the iconic 1:18 scale Lamborghini Diablo SV by Maisto. And yes, it's all black. You can see on the black rims, on the black paint, except for the interior. This really looks like a menacing and sinister looking Lamborghini Maisto ever made. Now, a little bit of background on the Lamborghini Diablo, and yes, it is the successor of the iconic and popular Lamborghini Countach that was introduced in the early 70s, and since the car is getting old, they needed a new replacement for that car, which is this, that entered, I think, in the early 90s. Now, as a kid from the 1990s, I first saw this car in an iconic video PC game made by EA back then. That was the Need for Speed 3 Hot Pursuit, which is, I also had the CD right here. As you can see, a yellow Lamborghini Diablo which is being chased by a pursuit Corvette right there. So this definitely an iconic supercar during the 90s. And speaking of old things, this diecast is already been in Maisto production, I think, during the mid or late 90s, alongside with the CLK GTR, the Ferrari F50, and the no longer produced McLaren F1. Now, there are also diecast manufacturers who also makes a Lamborghini Diablo SV in 1:18 scale model, particularly like Motormax. I already seen their diecast, and it also really looks good. And of course, the high-end one, as far as I know, Auto Art also made Lamborghini Diablo SVs. But the Maisto model of the Diablo SV is the cheapest and most attainable among the other brands that I mentioned, like the Motormax. I really wanted the Motormax version, but it's really hard to find even online. And also the Auto Art, which will command a premium price because of the superb detail and build quality of the diecast. So I have no choice, and I'm stuck with the Maisto diecast again. But I know that Maisto is going to have some positive sides on it, even though this is a less detailed and a budget model. So let's dive into the exterior part of this diecast. So you could see the glossy, sinister black paint right there, and the SV writing. Now, this is a tampo, not a decal or a sticker, so cleaning it up, you don't have to worry about just wiping or dusting it off. So, you can see the front here. So, I'm gonna zoom in the camera here. Right there. There you go. Now, it looks like the headlights do have a pop-up capability, but it doesn't. It's just part of the front mold of the diecast, but Maisto is still gonna give you a separate amber signal light right there and fog lights. There are separate plastic parts there and also a grille. Now the aero kit, I think, or the body kit really looks good. Now, even though this has no pop-up headlights, you can still open the front right here. So you can open it and a spare tire will greet you right there. Now, onto the side profile of this diecast. Let's go first to the front tires right here. Now, the early version of the Maisto of the Diablo, or almost all of their diecast, had some writings on the tires on it, a brand name. But since this is a later release, they didn't even bother putting some brands or brand name on it, maybe for licensing issues, I think. Now, still a Diablo SV wheels, but they could have done something better onto this. So, like for instance, you could see the rotor disc right there, but there is no caliper. Now, the disc rotor rotates along the wheels. As you can see the detail, there are two-piece alloy rims, I think, and they finish it up with a matte black on it. And as far as I know, the Lamborghini Diablo SV had some glossy part on the alloy rims on it. So these rims by Maisto here really looks cheap, but then again, there's nothing we can do. This is a low budget model. Onto the rear wheels. Now, it also has the same treatment or detailed approach as the front. There's also no brake calipers on both sides since this is an old model. But the disc also rotates alongside with the wheels. Now, even though Maisto forgot all of those things and didn't bother to include those, and since this is a supercar, at least they included the staggered size on the wheel, so you could see wide tires on the rear and the narrow tires on the front. So yes, it's a cheap approach, but still a considerable positive side by Maisto. Onto the rear part of this diecast. Now, I'm really surprised how well detailed they made those taillights are. Yes, it's a budget model, but look at that. You can see almost, maybe there's a peg on it, but if there's a peg on the middle, it really looks good. For the texture of the transparent plastic right here, even in the brake lights right there, it really does look good. Now, I'm not sure about the diffuser lights right here. Now, I think they're supposed to be a additional brake lights or a reflector or something, but it really looks like a drawing. I think it would be better if they just left it just all black. Maybe that's a better approach, in my opinion. Now, you can see the grill right here, and also the Diablo insignia. You cannot see anything through the grills right there. It's just a texturized plastic. You can see the chrome tailpipe, no holes, and the Diablo SV plate holder right there, the license plate holder. And also, you can see in the rear part, the right part of the rear part. Now, this is supposed to be a reverse light, but really doesn't work for me. Better to leave it alone if I were Maisto. And you can also see the well-detailed tail lamps right there. Since we're here on the rear part of the diecast, why won't we take a peek on the engine bay? So, we lift the engine bay lid right here so you can see the large V12 engine right here. So you could see the air intake with the Raging Bull logo right here, right there, and the Lamborghini names on the air intake. And you can also see the wirings, I think, for the high tension wires. Now, they do look like plastic, but still they included it, so it's a plus point for Maisto. And as you can see right there, this is not just a plastic slab. This actually had an engine block on it, so I will show you later what does it look like underneath. Maisto is a cheapskate, especially on the engine detail or the engine bay, but not this one. So like I said or mentioned before, this has a separate engine block on it. So if you turn around the diecast, you can see the exhaust manifold or the headers right there, crawling up to the exhaust pipe right there, to the tailpipe, and also the transaxle right there, and the suspension. So there's a spring on it, 2 springs to be precise. So I don't know why they added 2 springs on it. You can see the transaxle there, it's a separate piece, and the transmission and the oil cooler, or the oil pan, it really looks good for a budget model again. Now, going to the interior, like any other Lamborghini, of course, this is going to have a scissor doors on it. So, open it in the old-fashioned way, like the Countach right there. It stays up. That's a good one. Now, you can see the steering wheel right here, and a sticker for the odometer and the tachometer. Now, the red part is supposed to be a representation of the red stitching, but it really doesn't work right there. But still, at least they put an effort to paint it just to represent the stitching, which really doesn't really work. Now, since this is an old diecast model by Maisto, So the approach for the interior, you know, it's decent but not convincing. Right there, you could see the plastic parts right there on the dashboard, the separate piece. It's just a texturized plastic parts on it. So you could see the shift knob and the buttons right there in the center console, and it's still a very nice thing that they did is to include a racing harness or 4-point seat belts right there, and I think you could see the emergency brake right here besides the driver's side right there. So yes, it's cheap, but still a very decent, well-detailed interior. Like I mentioned before, this is an old diecast by Maisto, and it's not going to be perfect. Like, for example, some of the doors, especially these Lamborghini scissor doors, now they will stay up if they wanted to, but most of the time it will fall off. So, and another also for the engine lid right here, since that's the common characteristics of an old Maisto products there. And also, if you observe, if you compare this to a newer ones or newer diecast by Maisto, this needs some refinements on the edges. I mean, literally, the gaps of this diecast had some rough edges on it. So you have to consider all of those things when buying this old casting by Maisto. Now, my general overview of this diecast. Now, if you want a cheap 1:18 scale Lamborghini Diablo SV, then the Maisto is the one for you. But if you can lay your hands on the other brand like the Motormax version, I think, in my opinion, is a well detailed and well built or representation of the Diablo SV. You should take a look on the one that's made by Motormax. And if you can shower more cash on to the Diablo SV, then the Auto Art is not a bad choice. Now guys, thank you for watching, and I hope this helps and entertains you at the same time. And have a nice day.